bringing news alive. So immersive, so new, and so addictive. You will want it no other way.
The Bloomberg Terminal, accessed only by over 325,000 marquee investors across the world until now.
More than just business news, we're news for business people.
Good morning, you're watching Daybreak on Bloomberg Quint, India's first digital live streaming business news service, and I am Agam Vakil. Here are the first headlines. Asian markets opened mixed in early trade following a positive finish in the US last Friday. And Bitcoin prices jumped on Sunday evening as CBOE Futures Exchange began trading futures of the cryptocurrency. And 66.75% voters participated in the first phase of Gujarat Assembly elections. 977 candidates contested from 89 constituencies of Kutch, Gujarat, Saurashtra and South Gujarat, and the second and final phase will be held on December 14. US equities closed higher on Friday following the release of a stronger than expected jobs report. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 closed at record highs. Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle wraps up with more details.
Stocks climbed higher in Friday's Wall Street session. The Dow and the S&P 500 up for a second day in a row. The tech-heavy NASDAQ up for a third day in a row. All of this on the back of a solid jobs report for the month of November. 228,000 jobs were added in the month of November, and the unemployment rate is at 4.1%. So investors cheering that to some degree. Now, tech is continuing to rebound. Last week, of course, there was some talk about a rotation out of technology, but we've now had tech up 3 days in a row, in Friday's session being helped by the likes of Microsoft, along with eBay and Western Digital. So tech, a very strong sector once again. Another top sector on the session, healthcare plus biotech. Alexion Pharmaceuticals climbing sharply higher on a report that an activist investor, Elliott Management, could seek changes there, so those shares trading higher. Taking a look at the commodity complex, overall trading modestly higher. The Bloomberg Commodity Index up modestly on the day, but oil up more than 1%, a bit of a rebound after some choppy trading on the week. Now looking ahead to the coming week, two big events. On Sunday, Bitcoin futures start trading. That, of course, follows big gains this past week, up as much as 56% at the highs on the year, up about 1,500%. So investors, of course, are wondering how that trading of futures will affect the price. And then on Wednesday, the Fed policy decision for interest rates. Most investors and economists and strategists are expecting the Fed to raise rates by 1/4%. In New York, Abigail Doolittle, Bloomberg News.
And Asian markets have also opened higher following the big gains that we saw last Friday in the US. This was, of course, on the back of a stronger than expected jobs report. But to give us more as to what's happened in the Asian markets, Rosalind Chin of Bloomberg is also here with us to give us all the updates. Good morning, Rosalind.
Good morning. Well, yes, we did see a bit of optimism this morning over in Asia. Yes, with those better numbers, those job numbers looking pretty strong over on Wall Street. And also investors looking forward to the Fed. There's going to be a Fed meeting later this week. And the Fed looks like it's 98%. There's a 98% chance that the Fed is actually going to hike rates. Of course, we've been discussing this for weeks and weeks now. So a lot of this has been priced in. But of course, investors are very much focused on what's going to happen in that last Fed meeting of the year. So things at the moment, though, in the Asian markets looking rather more subdued, I would say. The MSCI Asia Pacific Index trading up about 0.7%. But really, what are people talking about this morning? It is Bitcoin. Is there anything else right now apart from we're talking about the futures trading that has opened for Bitcoin on CBOE? Now, right now, if we look at that, the futures price is at $16,630 US for Bitcoin, and that's compared to the actual price of Bitcoin, which is at 15,973.4 US dollars. So a lot of interest around that, and really that is what is really generating a lot of the excitement this morning. The rest of the market's looking, not so exciting at this point in time. Of course, we've got the Hang Seng, which is just opening up right now. That is up by 0.2%. Of course, over in Shanghai, the the Shanghai Composite Index just about flat, dipping a little bit into the red at this moment in time. So not a lot of things there which are sort of exciting the investors at this point in time. But of course, as I mentioned, we have the central bank meet, the Fed, and also the ECB, which is going to be meeting later this week. On the markets which are pulling lower right now, the Kospi really the main one, but even that is only down by 0.15%. And again, it's technology stocks there like Samsung which are weighing on that particular market. So looking for a little bit of direction, I think, and perhaps we'll find it in the coming hours. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Rosalind. We'll be watching out for those moves on the Bitcoin as well as the central bank action coming up this week. But let's also take a look at what we can expect in terms of trade for Indian markets. We have Darshan Mehta joining us. Good morning, Darshan.
Good morning, Aga. At this point of time, not too many positive cues or negative cues. It's rather muted as far as Asia is concerned. The SGX Nifty is trading just up by 14 points, but above the 10,300 mark. And the last 2 days have seen a spectacular rally as far as the Nifty is concerned. All the ADRs ended with a positive bias. Tata Motors was up almost 1.6%, 1.6%. ICICI and Wipro both were up almost 1.3%. So overall, the cues that are coming in from the ADRs are much stronger. Trade currently, as far as crude is concerned, crude is trading lower by 0.5% in morning trade. But if you're looking at it, the overnight on Friday, what happened? Crude was up almost 1.2%. So overall, a second week of straight losses that we're seeing as far as crude is concerned. The US drillers actually added a lot of rigs countering the OPEC's, method to actually address the supply glut that is there. So on the back of that, some weakness coming in as far as crude is concerned. Base metals also ended muted as far as LME trade is concerned. Nickel was down 0.8%, zinc was down almost 0.2%, lead was up almost 0.6%, while the others, tin, aluminium and copper, ended absolutely flat. Now, as far as China is concerned, it seems that the commodities have opened with a positive bias. Steel is up 2%, aluminium and rubber are up almost 0.3%. So steel is where the action is in trade currently. Gold actually posted its third weekly loss and it's trading flat in morning trade. So overall, not too much cues coming in as far as gold is concerned. The other factors is the fund flows. FII sold in almost 675 crores in the cash market. This is the NSE provisional data that is there, and DI has bought in almost 1,200 crores in the cash market. So again, you're seeing that DIIs are much more active than the FIIs. On a month-to-date basis, FIIs are net sellers to the tune of 3,500 crores. But at the same time, DIs have bought in almost 5,200 crores. So net we are cash positive as far as this market is concerned. Overall, the trade setup, if you're looking at the Nifty's gained almost 1.5% last week. Majority of the gains came in the last two trading session. FMCG, Nifty FMCG was the best performing index, and this was led by HUL, which is trading at record highs. The Nifty Pharma index gained almost 1.5%. So that traction is clearly being seen here. The only index that ended with losses was the Nifty PSU banking index. So that was very, very weak and ended with losses for the entire week. The Nifty was up almost 100 points. What contributed? ITC contributed almost 20 points, added significantly to the FMCG index. Also HDFC Bank, HDFC gaining, the banks contributing on the positive side. What didn't do well was some of the PSU banks, Reliance and TCS, but overall 100-point gain, almost 100-point gain on the Nifty on Friday.
With the up move on the Nifty, I suspect we are also looking at some put writing coming about.
Yeah, so put writers are very active at the 10,000 level, and they've now started moving at the 10,100 mark. So because they're looking very, very active. Now on the Nifty itself, the Nifty was up 1%. Fresh buying was seen. Open interest build up of almost 3% was seen. The premium is 26 points on the Nifty. The Bank Nifty also saw a lot of traction, but on the Bank Nifty, the difference was there was short covering that was seen on the Bank Nifty. Then open interest build up was down 12%. VIX was down in trade since the market was rallying. The VIX was down almost 4% in trade. Now, if you're looking at the PCR, a big move that came in on the Nifty PCR, 1.26 versus 0.91, indicating the fact that call writers were shedding positions because the market was rallying almost more than 200 points in the last two trading session, and put writers became much more aggressive. Now, this is the open interest change that happened. Just look at the 10,200 put. Here is where maximum amount of open interest buildup was seen, since the market was headed at that level, and at higher levels call writers are seeing shedding positions. So this is where maximum, and at lower levels they have to shed positions, call writers, because the premiums are going up significantly. So it seems that, you know, at 10,100, 10,200, the Nifty is seeing significant amount of support that is coming in. We are trading close to the 10,300 mark in trade. So overall, this is the setup. Now, there are 6 stocks in the F&O band, 2 new entrants that are there. JP Associates and JSW Energy are the 2 counters which enter the F&O band. Which are the stocks that you have to watch out for? First of all, it's Pidilite. Look at the open interest buildup of almost 30% here. The counter was up 5%, so the counter moved on heavy open interest buildup. And the second is Mindtree. The counter saw open interest buildup of almost 16%, but the counter was down in trade. The counter has been rallying significantly, so you could see that there was profit booking that was happening on Mindtree on Friday.
Darshan, we'll be watching out for those cues, but as far as the markets are concerned, moving on, where do the top voices see the markets going in? Well, first up, we have Magnesh Nandurkar of CLSA, who believes that the market sentiment will continue to remain positive going ahead, driven by continued strength in domestic inflows. He believes that the market has shrugged off concerns over BJP's performance in Gujarat, and opinion polls and marginal increase in inflation forecast by the RBI. With that, let's move on and take a check at the rupee and the bond. We have Saloni Dhanuka joining us for the same. Good morning, Saloni.
Good morning, Agam. So, talking about the Indian rupee, it snapped its 3-day losing streak on Friday, and it ended 12 paise higher at 64.46 levels against the dollar. Now, the home currency strengthened after local equity market gained for the second straight session, while on a weekly basis, the rupee settled flat with a positive biasness. Now, elsewhere, the foreign exchange reserves once again crossed the $400 billion mark for the week ended 1st December, thereby marking a 4th consecutive weekly rise since November 2017. Now, on the global front, dollar gained against other major currencies on Friday after the release of better than expected strong non-farm payrolls data. Now, this data comes in right before the US FOMC meeting, which is scheduled to start its 2-day meeting tomorrow. Now, according to a Bloomberg survey, the odds of a rate hike in this meeting stands around 98.3%. Elsewhere, the pound on Friday dropped as much as 0.9% despite a breakthrough in the Brexit negotiations, as the market now awaits for further clarification on the trade talks between these two countries. Now, coming back home, dollar rupee is trading flat in the non-deliverable forward market, which indicates a flat opening for Indian rupee in today's trade. Now, moving on to debt market, sovereign bonds declined for the second straight week, thereby propelling the benchmark 10-year yields to its highest close in over 15 months, which is at 7.09%. And lastly, global funds increased their rupee debt holdings on Friday. They infused close to 40 crores according to NSDL data.
Thanks for that, Saloni. We'll move on to the realm of cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin started trading on the major US stock exchange for the first time on Sunday evening. Bloomberg's Yuji Nakamura wraps it up in this report.
What we saw with the first hour of trading is about $9 million in notional traded on the CBOE across all the contracts. And then just to put that into perspective, over the same period of time, about roughly $300 million traded globally on Bitcoin exchanges, Bitcoin spot, against the dollar. So for now, the futures are really just a drop in the ocean. Having said that, I think, we are seeing consistent buying or selling, activity every single minute, just 1 or 2 lots, the minimum sizes. I think what that shows us is there is demand for this product. But usually on the first day of a futures contract, you see very little activity because brokers will just kind of test their systems, make sure that the trading is working, make sure that settlement is working. But today, right out of the gate, we're seeing 1, 2 contracts being bought consistently every single hour. So the notional so far isn't huge, but it's not a bad start. As for your question on who's doing this, the CBOE contract is geared more towards retail people. It is smaller. It's about $16,000 in notional right now, versus the CME, which goes live in a week. That's more for institutional traders. That's about 5 times bigger than the CBOE contract. So I think the CBOE is more geared towards retail, and that's probably who we're seeing trade. For example, Interactive Brokers have said publicly that they will support it from day one. You know, this is just a guess, but I'm guessing retail traders are the ones just buying and selling here a little bit early on so far.
All right, then let's shift focus from currencies to commodities, and we have Jayesh Khilnani joining us to give us all the updates. Good morning, Jayesh.
Morning, Agam. So let me start off with oil prices, which actually saw a sharp uptick on Friday, which gained more than 1% for both versions of oil, that is Brent and WTI. Now, this is on the back of Chinese demand that has spurred oil prices higher. Also, that we understand the US rig count has come in at the highest level since September. So, you know, this is acting as a counter effect to the OPEC production cut efforts that all the nations have been making. We also have a comment from the oil minister of Kuwait who said that you know, OPEC along with Russia may look to end the production cut before 2019. Now, bear in mind that this is only, you know, after they take stock during the upcoming meetings and, you know, decide whether the oil markets have rebalanced. Post that, only this step will come in. As far as brokerages are concerned on oil prices, we have a note from JP Morgan in which they have raised their 2018 Brent forecast from $58 per barrel earlier to about $60 per barrel at the moment. Moving on to the base metal space, we saw some bit of weakness come about for all of the base metals. The index itself ended lower by about 3.7% for the entire week. Now, this was the worst week that it posted in over a year. So all the industrial metals, you know, except for zinc and nickel, zinc and nickel actually ended lower, and aluminium, copper, lead and tin were the industrials which actually gained. Now, you know, the same impact cannot be seen on the Shanghai Futures Exchange, where we are seeing that all the base metals are trading with a positive bias. So have a look at copper, zinc and aluminium, which have gained, you know, less than 1% each. However, steel on the other hand has you know, snapped its 3-day losing streak and is up more than 2%. Moving on to the precious metal space, we are seeing some bit of softness come about for gold prices ahead of the FOMC meet later in the week. Now, you know, prices have slipped below the 1250 mark. Now, this is on the back of the US rate outlook, and also that the dollar index has been gaining of late. In fact, it closed positive for all of the days last week.
Well, thanks for that, Jayesh. We'll be watching out for those movements in commodities. But moving on, Timothy Moore of Goldman Sachs sees lower oil prices in 2019, and he has a $59.5 per dollar target for Brent crude in 2019, while his 2020 target stands at around $54.5 per barrel. He also remains overweight on India, with a nifty target of as much as 11,600 by December of 2018. But the stock of the day is Omax Auto. The counter reported a twofold jump in its September quarter numbers, with an 11% jump in its revenues. Let's head across to Nikki Mirchandani, who will give us more details on the same. Good morning, Nikki.
Hi, Agam. So the revenues have been good enough. 11% growth that we're looking on year-on-year basis for this company at 289 crore. Net profit is a multifold jump, more than threefold jump that we're looking at a number of close to 3.3 crore as compared to 1 odd crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter. Now, EBITDA, that also is a healthy operating performance, up as much as 34% on year-on-year basis at a number of close to 13.7%. Margins have expanded. They've expanded to 4.8% as compared to 3.9% that we've seen in the base quarter. So after 3 quarters of decline, we've seen the profits actually inching up higher. So what has led to good set of numbers will be A, your higher revenues, and also your cost optimization techniques. This, along with that, you know, remember the fact that the profit has risen despite the lower depreciation. It's because of the lower depreciation and the tax credits. Now, if you see, that company has incurred a tax credit of nearly 1.9 crore as compared to 54 65 lakhs seen in the corresponding quarter. The profits have been higher despite the sharp decline that we've seen in lower other income. Now, other income has come down by as much as 50% on year-on-year basis to a number of around 1.06 crore. To give you a little background about which company we are talking about, it's an auto component manufacturer which has a market capitalization of around 150 odd crore, and it is also a long-term supplier to your companies like Bajaj Auto, TVS Motors for that matter. Back to you, Agam.
Thanks for that, Nikki. But of course, with that, there are also plenty of other stocks which we need to keep an eye on the back of news. And Shraddha Babla is here to give us a list of those stocks. Shraddha?
Well, to start off with, Agam, there's a ET report on Hexaware Tech, which you follow very closely. They're saying that Bearing Asia, which is a PE fund, is looking to sell up to 15% stake in the company, and that will be via multiple block deals. And they've also said that the deals are likely to happen at the discount of 1 to 5% at the current market price. So that's a name we got to keep an eye out for. You also have an ET report which is talking about Axis Bank and Bank of Baroda both selling a part of their SR loans, and that is to Deutsche Bank. Now, Axis Bank is said to have sold as much as $90 million of loan at less than 60 cents a dollar, which means a haircut of close to 40%. On the other hand, they said that Bank of Baroda has got 71 cents a dollar, so that's a haircut of close to 30% or so. You also have NBCC, where the government will sell 67.5 lakh shares, and that will be at a discounted price of 156. Now, this will be via an offer for sale, especially for the employees, and this will remain open from 28th December to 5th January. A sizable discount is what they've given to the employees, so keep an eye out on that name. IL&FS Engineering, they've won a 216 crore pipeline lane contract from GAIL, and the project has to be completed in about 15 months or so. Power Grid, which has entered into a loan agreement with Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank for as much as $100 million, and the board has also approved 2 investment proposals which are valued at about 270 crores or so. And lastly, Unitech, where the board approval came in on Saturday for a greenfield expansion at Rajasthan, whereby the company will set up a 3.5 MTPA integrated plant with an investment of 1,850 crores. Additionally, the board also approved increase in the foreign investment limit from 30% to 40%. So, Agam, those are some of the stocks to watch out for.
Absolutely, Shraddha. Thanks for that and giving us those stocks. But moving on, what is the big brokerage call of the day? We have Somit Sarkar joining us to give us that. Hi, Somit.
Good morning, Agam. On the big brokerages, first we have is Jefferies on Reliance Industries. Now they have downgraded the stock to underperform from hold, but have raised the target price to 790 from 626. Now, according to the brokerage, EBITDA of Reliance Industries may double to $20 billion by financial year 2022 or 23. But much of this is already priced in. Now they're expecting the refining margins to ease off from FY18 high as refining demand supply turns less benign. On the capex side, they're saying that the overall capex would be low as compared to the past, but would still be at elevated levels because of the led by telecom segment and the ENP segment. Now, on telecom business, they're saying that ramp up would be difficult as average revenue per user and subscribers would not rise together for Reliance Industries. That they are expecting the return ratios to be modest going forward and net debt to be higher. Also, according to the brokerage, the valuations of Reliance Industries are rich and appears to have brushed off all the possible risk. Also, post the current run up, they are saying that it will be a tough hurdle for Reliance Industries to outperform going forward. Second, we have is HSBC on Motherson Sumi. Now they have maintained their buy rating on the stock but have raised the target price to 425 from 376. Now Motherson, which is already strong on operational side, is now increasing focus on innovation and integration according to HSBC. Now this focus on innovation and cross-selling will support business growth going forward. Now it remains positive on Motherson as the company is well placed to benefit from the increasing role of auto component suppliers going forward. Motherson's innovative product on camera-based technologies positions it for higher long-term growth according to HSBC Securities. Also, the recent fundraising will help Motherson for multiple acquisitions to achieve its 2020 goal.
Well, thanks for that, Somit. We'll be watching out for those as well. But there's a lot to talk about over the course of the day, and you will find all the live market action on Bloomberg Quint. There are also a few stories that you should consider reading on the website bloombergquint.com. Here they are. India Inc. promises better pay hikes of 10 to 15% for the right talent in 2018 after a challenging year for the jobs market, stunned by post-demonetization layoffs in traditional sectors like textiles and due to the advent of artificial intelligence in the new age ones. And former Reserve Bank of Governor Y.V. Reddy said that the economy requires 2 more years to consolidate and claw back to higher growth levels, refusing to hazard a guess on the GDP growth in the short term given the shocks like GST, note ban and bad loans. On to the most awaited event of the week. 89 out of the 182 constituencies went to polls in Gujarat on Saturday, with 66.8% voters exercised their right to vote, which was lesser than the 71.3% recorded in 2012. And voting for the remaining 93 seats takes place this Thursday, and the result will be declared next Monday. That is December 18. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet thanked the people of Gujarat for the large turnout and said that the BJP is heading for a historic win. On the other hand, the Congress party said that they are confident of victory unless there is some mischief done with the electronic voting machines. There were reports of malfunctioning EVMs in Surat, to which the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said that such incidents are expected in such a big election. And Rahul Gandhi, who's been heading his party's campaign in Gujarat, did take some time to enjoy the food and culture of the state. Here's how the Congress president in waiting unwinds during his hectic campaign schedule. Okay. Yeah. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Daybreak. All you need to know is up next. Stay tuned to the Bloomberg Quint.